I am Laura Hart, and I am here for my weekly Heart to Heart, where I get to talk to cool and interesting people. And today I'm talking to Susan Klimczak, Dr. Susan Klimczak, an education organizer. How are you, Susan?
I'm very well today, and I'm really happy to be here, Laura. Thank you
Oh,
for inviting me.
thank you for coming. So I'm going to do a little housekeeping about RoboFun, and then we're going to jump right in. RoboFun is located on the Upper West Side of Manhattan at 102nd and Broadway. And we have classes, camps, private lessons, homeschool classes, after school, birthday parties, and lots of summer camp and vacation day camps. So check us out. We are at robofun.org. And if you join the mailing list, you get lots of information. Occasionally, we are able to throw into our mailing list, hey, we're trying out a new technology. Would your child like to try it? That type of thing. But you get all of our information. I just want to mention upcoming is our open house for summer camp. And our summer camp runs 12 weeks of the summer. And kids register for 1, 2, 3, sometimes up to 7 or 8 weeks that they just love being with us and we love being with them. But it's a convenient type of arrangement where you can sign up for just mornings, just afternoons, or the full day. And those camps run for 3 to 13-year-olds. And our open house to check us out is on May 1st, Sunday, May 1st, from 11 to 2. So we don't take up your whole day. You still have a lot of time left to do other things with your day, but your kid and you get to see what is RoboFun. What do we do with robotics? What do we do with building? What do we do with coding? You get to make things with circuitry. You might be able to make a little video game or learn a bit about it. And it's basically just a wonderful 3-hour celebration. I talk about my background. I talk about our philosophy. And if you're around, we'd love to see you on May 1st. Now I get to go to the fun part of our talk today. Susan and I are in similar spaces in different environments in different cities, and I am so blown away with Susan's work. I just feel as though she's hit the pulse of a lot of things that a lot of us are trying to do. And so, Susan, why don't you tell a little bit? You want to start with your PowerPoint, or you want to start with your background? Which would you prefer?
My PowerPoint, of course.
Okay.
Because I think it's really important to see visuals
Yep. Okay.
and see pictures rather than just words.
Okay. While we're getting that set to our audience, we are very interactive and we would love to hear your comments. So comments, questions, ideas, things you'd like us to go over in this talk, please join the chat and tell us. And we are ready with your PowerPoint and we're ready to go.
Can you see it?
Perfect. It looks perfect.
Oops.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I want to talk about in dark times how we grow towards the light. And I think that one way to do it is we use the technologies of the earth a lot, microcontrollers and electronics and coding. And I use digital design and fabrication machines. But those really need to be combined with technologies of the heart and the technology of love if we want to make liberation. And what are some of the dark times that we're going through right now? Of course, the pandemic and the impact that it's had on our young people, and how STEAM can be both enriching and healing. The second thing is that why 20 years ago, Mel King and I started our program, which is that not enough of our young people of color and young people whose families live with low incomes are going into STEM or have opportunities to do STEM enrichment that really centers them and their interests. I want to start with 2 quotes from 2 of my mentors. Grace Lee Boggs, if you don't know her, you should look her up. We are reimagining everything right now, not only who leads change in education, but the kind of education we now need to enhance our humanity and our communities. Okay. This is a time almost like the 60s where education change seems possible. And how do we do that? It is by using the technology of the heart. And the question and the answer is how is love? How do we infuse love, the technology of love, into our work? This is Mel King, who I sat next to for 20 years and worked with. So, what are technologies of the heart? What is the technology of love? And those are the technologies that bring out the best in us, bring out the best in each other, bring out the best in our community, and bring out the best for our planet. And how do we do that? And how do we focus also on bringing out the best in ourselves as young people, as educators, as parents? And one way that I do it as an educator is to collaborate very closely and let my college mentors and young people lead the way, create activities that matter, and also serve the community. These are three of my college mentors who have been with me for, long time. They were all teenage youth teachers who went to college to study STEM. Okay. The main program that I've worked with and that Mel and I created is called Learn to Teach, Teach to Learn. It's been around for 20 years in Boston. Basically, in non-COVID years, we hire about 36 teenagers from all across Boston. We focus on young people who would otherwise, not be involved in anything like this. Also, young people who might have to choose between a job and enrichment. We actually pay the young people to learn, build, and teach. They learn about 6 different technologies. They solve community issues by building projects that solve issues they think are important. And then the most exciting part is that they go out and teach. They go out in small groups of 3, and they go to about 25 community organizations that might be housing developments or community centers, and they offer free 3-week STEAM camps. So right now, the work I'm doing right now is I'm adopting this model for a public school. I'm at the Madison Park Technical Vocational High School here in Roxbury, which is a part of Boston. And here are some of the young people I teach in the Mel King Fab Lab there. And on the right-hand side is a light box, a project that you can see some of them on the table that the juniors made, where they laser cut boxes, learned to code NeoPixel strips, and etched and made these light boxes with images that were important to them. And the last thing that I want to talk about is my latest passion. With Cynthia Solomon and I, for the last 3 or 4 years, have been exploring TurtleStitch. And if you haven't heard of that, it's a free online coding environment where you use code to explore turtle geometry and digital and analog embroidery. So you have code, and you can see on this little picture here, it's block code it's actually based in Snap, which is sort of like Scratch, if some of you know it. And you put the blocks together and it will make designs, which you can then embroider out. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm going to stop sharing now.
That's pretty darn exciting. I'm putting a link to TurtleStitch for people who might like to learn more about that. But how did you get here? I always find it really interesting to, what did you do as a child and in college, and how did this passion, you eventually went to Harvard and got a PhD in learning and teaching. So how'd you get there? And then I want to learn more about your work with Mel.
Well, I came from a family that was first generation immigrants from Poland,
Mhm.
and we were sort of lower working class, working poor family. And uh, oh, excellent! I see somebody's asked a question, and I'll get to that. Thank you. Um, and I made a lot of things when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I sewed my own clothes. We cooked a lot. We did a lot of crafts. I learned hand embroidery, and so that took me a long way into sort of making things. And the other thing I was passionate about was um, activism, community organizing. I was in the Girl Scouts, and I did a lot of organizing around the environment with them. And then when I went to college, I secretly studied electrical engineering because my parents didn't approve. They wanted me to be a nurse so I could be a good mother, because everybody in my family got married, and I was first generation college. I secretly studied electrical engineering, and uh, finally got my degree. I had to work full time, and then when I got into engineering, like many women of my era, I was the first woman, and it was exhausting. And they were going away where each person was in their little room, and sometimes you didn't talk to anybody for weeks, and you just had your blackboard, and you would be doing equations and maybe working on uh, uh, a computer, but the computers took up a whole room then. I
So
learned
back up a minute. Where'd you go to college, and where were you?
University of Maryland, College Park,
Uh-huh.
which had
And
one of the top engineering programs in the nation then,
so at
in the
some point
'80s.
you had to break it to your parents that you were majoring in electrical engineering.
Yeah, they weren't really happy.
Right.
But they sort of lagged every step of the way.
Right.
So I was an engineer for 7 years, and I knew that I didn't wanna do this for the rest of my life, because I paved the way for women. I brought some women onto the firm. I had a lovely job with the loveliest company. I loved the work I was doing, but I just didn't like the culture.
Mhm.
And so, I decided to say I saved up all my money and got a degree in environmental education from the most radical uh, uh, university setting in the country. It was called the Audubon Expedition Institute. And basically, I got on a bus with my backpack and my sleeping bag, and we traveled around in a modified school bus, and slept outside every night and studied. Went to see the people who wrote the books we were reading. Spent about 25 days a semester in the wilderness. So this was a very radical thing, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I learned a lot about experiential education. What was really powerful was that I learned that young people could direct their own education, because everybody chose their own books and what they really wanted to study within a course.
Mhm.
And I learned about experiential education. And then I became very interested in social justice issues within the environmental movement. I thought that cities were as sacred as wilderness. So I applied to do my doctorate at Harvard, and and ended up getting in. And I was very surprised, because I had a very spotty educational background, but I really thrived, and did my doctorate there. And while I was doing it, I met Mel King, who is a wonderful, wonderful sort of icon in Boston. He was the first African American to run in the final race for mayor in the '80s, and he lured me into the South End Tech Center, where I spent 20 years, and that's where he and I developed the Learn to Teach, Teach to Learn program together, and started the first Fab Lab outside of MIT.
Wow. That's, I am honored to have you with us today. So Bree, thank you so much for your question. Just so everyone knows, I think that will answer Bree's question. Will bring up a lot of things. What do you do in these what equipment do these digital tools require? When working with low-income communities, what do you suggest?
Well, I suggest, what equipment? Mel and I had the philosophy that the young people require the best. So that's why we established the first Fab Lab outside of MIT at the South End Technology Center. We begged and pleaded and begged, borrowed, we didn't steal um, equipment for our lab. Uh, Digital design and fabrication lab, and we started with it. We started with activities that we were really passionate about. I loved microcontrollers, so we did a lot with Arduino, and now we're doing a lot with microbits. But you can do a lot just with paper electronics. My friend GT, I took my young people there to work with her at the MIT Media Lab. When working with low income communities, it's good to have partners. Like, find somebody in your community that or a university that you can partner with, and oftentimes you can bring in people to help you with who are passionate about different things. I worked with the MIT Media Lab, and so when they were starting up new technology education projects, they would test them on our young people. For instance, Scratch, before it went online, they tested it with our young people. Makey-makeys, a lot of the things that you use now, because of our partnership with the MIT Media Lab, we were able to test those things out.
That's great. That's fantastic. So I wonder if part of Bree, if you're still with us, if you can jump back in. Maybe a part of what you're asking is, how do you start a center like this? Or what equipment? Maybe we should go right into TurtleStitch and what is required with TurtleStitch.
Oh, TurtleStitch. So what's required with TurtleStitch is the online learning environment, which you've put the the link to there, is free. And I have to tell you, I've been working with some of my classes in TurtleStitch. I've been trying to apply some of the approaches that I've used with Learn to Teach in a high school, a very challenging high school classroom at the Madison Park Technical Vocational High School. And basically, okay, the question was, why am I going to there? Oh,
because
what do you need? They have, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about classrooms is that they have a wonderful classroom setting. It's called turtlestitch.backface.io. And so I can see everything and edit and communicate with all the projects that my students are working on, which is really, really, really awesome. And they all appear in a particular space. I think I've worked with a lot of education settings within some of these coding environments like Scratch and stuff, but I think TurtleStitch is the best. So you can start with that. Then in terms of equipment, I was just telling Laura that I think that the best thing to do is to get a sturdy, simple digital embroidery machine. So I use a Brothers 600 and 625. I have two of them now because I went on eBay and got a refurbished one. They run between $400 and $600. I'm usually able to get some grants from folks, or have folks who are really interested in this help to buy me some things. And then you need thread. I can put a link to, I have a wonderful spreadsheet that has all the materials you need. You need scissors, you need hoops, but that comes with your machine, and you need fabric. I go to a discount fabric store. So it's very affordable if you sort of are very clever at sourcing things. But I can help you be clever because I have the spreadsheet.
So Cynthia, I mean, Susan, as people are watching this, if they want to be in touch with you, how would they be in touch with you?
Yes, they can be in touch with me. I'll put up the slide here that, let's see,
What
with
I'm
all my
imagining.
information in it.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So here's at Zach Boston. That's my Twitter handle. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. And then klimczaksusan@gmail.com is my email address.
Okay.
And I'm pretty good about email. I do answer my email.
Oops, I misspelled com, but I think people will get it. All right, I put that in the chat as well. Okay, so let's say I'm going nuts and like this is what I'm going to do. I'm using Bree as an example. She's going to set up a program. She lives in northern Manhattan. She's going to do it at the Armory. She needs computers.
Yes.
To do Turtle and what
they can have the Chromebooks, which are not computers, by the way. They can have the Chromebooks. Yeah, you just need some kind of you need to have some kind of a computing system that allows you to insert a jump drive. The way that you get your code from the computer to the machine, you can use both. Computers are Chromebooks. Oh, I'm looking at the chat. You use a little jump drive or a USB drive.
So it has to have a USB port.
Computer. Yes. That you insert that into the sewing machine, and then it reads your file. Okay.
And what is, again, I wrote down, it's Brother 600 or 625. What's it called? An electronic?
It's called a digital embroidery and sewing machine. It does sewing and digital embroidery. And I want to go back to this because I want to tell you a little bit about my philosophy about this. Yes, it's really exciting. I work with math classes. Geometry teachers love me. But here, let's go back to here. One of the things that I did, and I think Cynthia and I are going to start up another session of this, is we offered during the pandemic a free professional development with teachers for TurtleStitch. I just put it out on Twitter, and we got like 28 teachers from across the world who were willing to come together for an hour and a half every Sunday. It was supposed to be 6 weeks, but they wouldn't let us go. It ended up being 6 months. And there's a journal article that I think that Laura can put in
Yes, I can put that in the chat now.
That is a little summary of what we did, and it's like 70 pages long because it has short articles by most of the teachers about how they've applied the work, what they've done. But TurtleStitch, you basically have code, and that you use the coding environment, and then you have your sewing machine that you plug it into, and you use materials, different kinds of fabrics, different colors of thread, variegated thread, rainbow thread, glow-in-the-dark thread. There's all kinds of threads. And then you make products out of it. And in the code, you can actually code different kinds of embroidery stitches. So if you look on the left-hand side, I made presents for all
Whoops, wait a minute. We don't have that open. Okay, now we have it.
All the tea and TurtleStitch folks. You can see my screen, can't you?
Now you can. Yes.
Oh, okay, good. You can see over here on the left-hand side that you can have different kinds of stitches. You can code in different kinds of stitches, so you can do a lot of really interesting things. This is a manipulative that we use because a lot of the students haven't done embroidery. So we have these little guides that we throw out. I have like 8 of them, and we throw them around and so that young people can see what the stitches look like. But then we make products out of it. So we had a biscuit assignment. And so people did, I don't know if you've heard of these different biscuits. They're usually from France or Germany or South America, and they often have these interesting designs on them. So people design them, and so this is with a laser cut frame, laser cut wood frame. This is very, very popular with my young people. They like to take their designs and make them into these little zippered pouches that they attach to the back of their backpacks, and they like to put their earbuds in them.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions.
Yes, so I'm going to stop.
Okay for first-time coders, and a really cool question. Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. It is wonderful for first-time coders. It's very easy, and there's a lot of kinesthetic things you can do, because basically you're coding how a turtle walks. So you can actually walk your design physically. So it's very good. I've used it with kids as young as 6 or 7, who've done amazing things, to teachers who've never coded before and who were really intimidated.
And another really interesting question is, if a child or adult wants to continue with TurtleStitch after the class is over, can they make creations and print to machine somewhere else?
Absolutely. As long as, in fact, you can get on the TurtleStitch from anywhere, download your file and print it anywhere, or other people. You can send it to other people to print on their machines if you don't have a machine.
Okay, but I think what Bree might be asking is there like, like with laser printing, there's all these companies that will laser print what you create, you send it to them. Are there companies that will print TurtleStitch stuff?
I don't think so, but but if you're a teacher and you have a specific class that you're doing it for, with let's say 20 to 30 TurtleStitch designs, my youth teachers and I'm sure would be happy to print them out for you.
Okay, all right.
Well, you could contact me, and
sure.
Or I might be able to find some of these wonderful teachers.
All right. So we have a comment from our friend and colleague, Cynthia. Susan, you make a lot of the products. I'm not sure where she's going with that.
Yes, I do. And when I had that little diagram out, I really think it's important. Like, you can have, like, we're making a quilt in one of my classes, and you can have, like, just print it out on a little piece of fabric or whatever. This is a biscuit thing. The names of all my students are going to be on the outside. There we go, of the quilt. So you can print them out like this, but I think it's really important to make them into products. And so I use the laser cutter. I turn my digital embroidery machine into a sewing machine and help them sew things up. I embroider on like tea towel blanks. I do a lot of really creative things, because I think it's really powerful to see, like, one of my youth teachers came in like 2 years later from when she made this little zip up case to put on her belt. Mm-hmm. And she was still wearing it 3 years later, had her name and a design on it. And that is showing off what you've done is very inspiring to other people. Yes. And also it helps recruit young people to get interested. How can I do that?
So of course, I knew this was going to happen. Bree has a question before I have a question. How are you assessing their geometry knowledge and skills? And is that important in this whole thing?
Well, I look and see if they're messing about. I don't know if many of you know that term, messing about. I can see their TurtleStitch designs, and we might be working with different things. Like, we might be working with triangles or different kinds of polygons or arcs or whatever. Next week, we're going to be working with recursion and fractals, making trees. with the students that I teach in my school. But whatever it is, I can see what they've been doing if they save it. And I can see how they're messing about. And that's how I assess them. I'm just happy if they're experimenting with things, doing things. And you'll hear them. They'll say, "Oh, come look at this, miss." In my school, everybody calls you miss. And they're showing each other their things, and they're excited. They give me things that sometimes I sew things up or frame things up for them, that they've made, and there'll be a line of them wanting those things, and that's really cool.
So is this in a high school computer science class? Is this in a high school geometry class, a high school art?
Well, I work with all of those.
Okay.
But the classes that I teach are called, one of the classes I teach is called Exploring Computer Science.
Okay.
And it's not and so I've taken that very freely. And I have them exploring it using microbits. Right now we're doing a TurtleStitch thing. We've done, all coding with ear sketch, which is making beats with Python code. So I've been experimenting. This is my first year teaching in a high school. So I've been experimenting with different kinds of things that they can do.
That's cool. That's really, really exciting. So Learn to Teach, Teach to Learn has been going on for over 20 years.
Yes.
And how is it funded? Or is it always kind of beg, borrow, and steal? Or is there any state, federal, local?
Well, the young people are paid, largely paid through several jobs programs that we have, summer jobs programs that we have in Boston. In the spring, when they're working with me on Saturdays, I have to raise the money for that. And I've been lucky enough to be able to do that. And I have a few personal supporters that come in and help me out from time to time. And I write a lot of grants.
Okay. All right.
So I work with everything from science or STEM oriented grants to actually art oriented grants, because an aspect of everything that we do, no matter what we're teaching, is art. Yes. Because that is a bridge for many of our young people into coding, into science, into technology. So there's always Cynthia was joking. She always jokes with me because she just likes the coding part, and I really like making things and imagining code that can be useful and can be done. But I like to design projects or activities with the young people where they can show off what they've made to other people, and it's artistic and expressive.
I am so moved by your work. And what we decided yesterday is we're going to do another session, and everyone will learn about this with a group of the kids you're working with.
Yes. Several of them are already lined up and would like to do it. They just, we asked them yesterday, and they were like, "No, I have plans. This is school vacation week." So.
Right. And I realize we have so much that we want a whole session just with them. But as we're getting ready to close, can you tell us about, 2 or 3 kids who you really feel like you've had a hand in helping them go to the next step in their life? And
yes, I will. First, I'll tell you about Naeem, who just graduated from college. I met Naeem when he was like 13 or 14 years old, and he was a misfit. And he was at one of these schools in Boston that believes that the more structure, that our young people of color need more structure, discipline, sort of military sort of guidance. And he is a kind of a really creative and not super organized individual, but he's super creative and super smart. And he was almost flunking out of this charter school he was in that was so structured, because he would lose all his points for its homework because he couldn't get it out fast enough. We got him into the Fab Lab. He started making things, and he was brilliant. And Mel and I advocated at his school for him. and he he became a leader in the school and started a lot of different maker projects with his teachers. And then he went on to college and has been working in both fine art and engineering, doing a
Wow.
lot of really interesting projects. And he just graduated, and I hope to find him a job in a Fab Lab. He taught with me for something like 8 years,
Wow.
from being a teen youth teacher to a college mentor.
Wow.
So I think that that's really cool too. And let's see. Um, uh, I want to find an example of a young woman. Oh, there was a young. We take a lot of young women who are a lot of young people who might have other people might not be willing to work with.
Mhm.
And one of the young people from way back, she came from a family where she was experiencing family violence, and they put her in a foster care system, and she just didn't jibe with her foster mother, but we got her into Learn to Teach to Learn, helped her outside of the program, and she now she's doing international business across the world. Her teachers and her family didn't believe she would ever graduate from high school, but she was very smart. So the program basically is a safe space for young people to grow in ways that other parts, maybe school or their families, don't allow them to grow. Also, it instills in them, the last story I'll tell is it really instills in them, because we're giving back to the community. What I've noticed is a lot of the young people who we've worked with over the years, they continue serving their communities. It really plants the seeds of appreciation for giving back to the community in many ways. So many of the young people I've worked with still do community service, or they're in, like me, in service type jobs.
That's that's we can't end on a better note than that, Susan.
All right.
Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up with a few things about RoboFun, which, by the way, we work in over 100 schools in New York City, funded a lot by grants that I write and that are written by the Board of Education, et cetera. And right now we're in the middle of spring break. We have classes again tomorrow. We are almost full, but not totally full if you're a New York mom or dad looking for a place for your child tomorrow. And up and coming is our summer camp. And we would love to have you come and visit us on our open house on May 1st between 11 and 2 and see us in action, where we teach robotics, pre-robotics, coding, Minecraft, and circuitry. And if you've enjoyed this talk, it makes a huge difference. I feel like Ira Glass, but if you share it with your friends or tell your friends about it, it helps us a lot. And I am so happy. Do we have any final questions, or are we all set? Thank you, Bree, for your questions. And
yeah, and Bree, if you want to do it with your classes, and I'll even video the machines making the things, I'd be very happy to. And I also have we have some curriculum, or we don't like that. Cynthia and I don't like the word curriculum. But I have some activity plans I could share with you. So shoot me an email if you want access.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you do, Laura.